Yay. We thought we were going to be alone at the top. All right.
You guys can get started. Yep,
Good
good to go.
evening. Call to order for the Hollister Airport Advisory Commission meeting of Wednesday, February 23rd, 6 p.m. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chairman Jay Pankowski. Vice Chair Renee Wells.
Present.
Commissioner Eric Martin. Commissioner Mark Sterrett.
Here.
Commissioner Fred Meyer.
Here.
And I'm Executive Secretary Adam Bocanegra.
Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the Airport Advisory Commission of the City of Hollister meeting of February 23rd, 2022, posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on February 16th at 10 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954-2.
Consent to approve the minutes of the Airport Advisory Commission meeting of January 26, 2022. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make one correction if possible. Item 9A of new business on the waiting list. Commissioner Sterrett requested to have the hangar waiting list review. He did not believe the current policy is fair for applicants to move down to the bottom of the list, etc. Now, I may have, but I hope I didn't use the word fair,
Okay.
because my dad taught me as a little kid that life is not fair.
Mhm.
And I try never to use that word. It'd be more like I would say, it's not right, it's not justified, something like that. But don't accuse me of using the word fair. Thank you.
Do we want to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Or as corrected?
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Actually, I have one other adjustment. I think under items for next agenda, we were supposed to also have a discussion about through the fence. I believe Fred brought that up last time. That and the removal of the old buildings.
The removal of buildings is on this one.
Yes, it is.
Item-
But I think there was update on through the fence.
I didn't see that on there.
All right, now do we
Okay.
have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended for last meeting.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Public input?
We have no public on Zoom and no public in the audience here at City Hall.
Are you kidding me? There's standing room only outside. There's
That would be
only one
outside,
here.
not inside.
Must be COVID again, kicking off.
I'm surprised you guys need to have enough bandwidth to handle this.
Item number 6, reports.
So on
Item-
a flying 110th anniversary, I have no new info. Do you?
The only news I have is that I've tried to put together something, and it's been really difficult because I don't have any volunteers to help me with it. If I can't do something for the flying for the 110th anniversary as part of the Hollister 150, I am definitely going to put together a fly-in of sorts for the anniversary, and we'll just do it separately from the Hollister 150 unless I get more volunteers. So if there's anyone out there watching that wants to be part of
When is the Hollister 150 or when were you planning on this?
it's starts with the 4th of July and it goes on for like 4 to 5 weeks. And the Hollister anniversary would be the last week
Okay.
of that, probably last week of August.
So the fly-in would be which date?
We're still working that out because they have all these other activities. They just thought they would fill it in towards the end of that.
Okay,
But I can find that out for you.
okay.
we have
I
a-
might be able to volunteer a little.
Okay.
a little.
All right. We have a meeting on Friday, so I'll try to find that out
Okay. That'd be
and
great.
get back to you. I don't want to give up on it, so I think it would be good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item B, CAL FIRE ground lease update.
No new update from since the last meeting.
Did anybody check in on who's going to get the EPA clearance on the current ground where the CAL FIRE's at?
No, I did not.
They've been there for 50 years, and 50 years
Mhm.
ago, I know borate and what they used for fire suppression wasn't probably as people friendly as it is now. So that settling pond that used to be right next to that building by the dog park might be an EPA site, you know? And if we get stuck with cleaning it up instead of CAL FIRE, that's going to be a lot of money. So you might want to check into if CAL FIRE or what the lease says or who's responsible, but it could be a toxic little pond. I know, Mark, Commissioner Sterrett and Renee, I mean, I've been coming here since the 70s and CAL FIRE has been here since I've been here.
Yeah.
So it's probably, quite the little mess.
Okay,
I was-
something to check into.
I was going to actually make a recommendation depending on if, once they move, I was going to suggest that we move the fuel trucks over there, bring the tanks up and move the fuel station over there.
I thought,
Because
I
if-
th- I thought that the fire department was gonna move over there, Hollister Fire.
I have no idea. No details on that.
We don't know yet, but I think it'd be better if we're going to have to raise those tanks. And
Oh, eventually.
I think it would be good to add a second for unleaded fuel, because
Yeah.
we're gonna need that. And if we move the fuel over there and we have that big pond, if we have a fuel leak out on the ramp, like where the trucks are now, and one of those trucks leaks,
Yeah.
at least we could make that a holding tank. It's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have the wash apron right there with the bombers. That drain goes directly into that pond. So everything that's on the ramp and on the planes goes right down there. So it's something to think about.
I think that it might be a good idea to be proactive on that. If we take it upon ourselves, maybe to talk to somebody that does that type of testing and get a report out of them, a cost, what it's going to cost to do the report, and just kind of get ahead of it.
And I did get copies of the CAL FIRE leases going back to the 80s. It's just, they're really thick and complicated and they're bad copies. There's a current revision of the lease that hasn't been signed. I was told, so I think it would be good to find out if the lease does say anything about when they move, if they have to clean up that area.
It might even be good right now to even put a letter off to them, say, what is your understanding? What do you see happening upon your guys leaving the
Right.
site?
Maybe it should be in the amendment that if it hasn't been signed
Yeah,
yet.
what's their responsibility?
Right, I agree.
I make a comment. The only person that really has a good handle on that would be Mike Chambliss. He was heavily involved in that lease.
Mike's over at the county now, Fred?
Yeah,
No?
Mike Chambliss just retired
Oh.
and he's moving to Seattle. He left on Thursday. So we have a new interim RMA director. But I'm in touch with Mike. I had a long conversation to talk to him about the airport, just because I wanted some questions for the interviews for the airport director. But I could get in touch with him. I have his information, so if you want, I can follow up.
Well, is it, like I say, is it reasonable for us as the commission to be proactive and contact CAL FIRE and just directly get a document? We want to know what's going to happen when you guys leave here, what's
I'm not sure that we can do that outside of these commission meetings. I think we have to go through,
legal.
I think we have to go
Somebody.
through Brett in the city
Yeah.
to say,
Well-
these are the documents we want, and we would like to have a meeting set up. So they're present or the legal is present
yeah.
while we ask those questions.
Yeah,
So
like,
maybe requesting a meeting to review what's the policy for the cleanup after they move.
yeah, I think even a letter just going to Brett or legal to say, hey, we're concerned about this. We document that we're looking out for the airport's interest. This has got to be addressed at some point.
I think that's appropriate to have a letter from
And
the
I think
commission.
regardless of what
I
the lease says, don't get hung up on what the lease
Right, I
says.
agree.
Yeah.
That we have concerns about it as the commission. We're advising the city. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
That this needs to be looked at.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So
Um,
who's gonna fire off that letter to Brett?
I'll take that on.
Okay, Mark.
I think you should contact the city attorney and have her dig into this. She should find out what's going on.
Right, I agree.
But
These should be involved.
I'll contact city attorney, say, here's what our thoughts are. And whether they like it or don't like it, I'll draft a letter to the city attorney saying this needs to be looked at.
At this meeting, we discussed and determined, made a motion. I guess we should make a motion so it's in the minutes.
Well, yeah.
Make a motion that we,
So it is reflected on the minutes, maybe under new business or I'm not sure where, but
well, it is part of the
CAL
CAL
FIRE.
FIRE ground lease update. But we could say action item. We could call it an action item, I guess.
Yeah.
So does somebody want to make a motion?
I motion that we draft a letter, get this problem on the minutes for the ground cleanup at the existing CAL FIRE location.
Does anyone want to make a
I
second?
second that.
All those, in
I'd like to make a comment. We should find out exactly what does this lease say, not just worry about the cleanup, but what's in the lease, you know?
Well, that's what lawsuits are all about. It doesn't matter what the lease says, there's always a lawsuit. When they don't, they're responsible. Now, whether the lease says they are or not, that's what the lawsuits are always about, is holding somebody responsible, whether they are legally responsible or not. That's how you start.
and we're actually asking legal counsel to look at the lease so that we don't have to go through
Right.
piece by piece because it goes back to 1980s or something like that.
They can't pollute.
So I
Yeah,
think they would
that's the
have to-
city attorney's job. That's the city attorney's job to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're drafting a letter to the city, and we can also put it to the city manager and the
Sure.
legal counsel. Make
And-
sure they
and
get a
city
copy.
council.
And city council.
So we're all in favor?
So we all in favor?
Aye.
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 Definitely.
And then one question on that, if I draft that up, do we want to bring that in next meeting and go over that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah. Just
Make a
to make
resolution.
sure.
You bring the letter.
Okay. Perfect.
Maybe we should even all sign it, that we agree. So they-
even Fred.
they know it's serious.
I mean, it would be a concern and it would be
Yeah.
an enormous amount of money for your budget
Mhm,
to clean all that up.
definitely.
Yes.
Item number 3, airport manager update.
Airport manager, the only thing that I have now is, we have, after the last meeting, there are 5 candidates now. 5 candidates they're moving forward with for the interviews that are gonna happen in 2 weeks, which will have a community and an expert panel involved in that.
I have been asked to sit on the committee for interviews, so I will be there.
Good.
I don't know if anyone else wants to be. You can let-
I'd like to be there if possible.
Um,
Now, is it officially closed now? These 5 candidates are the candidates?
Yes,
Okay.
from my understanding, yes.
And even if you're not on the committee to interview, it would be good for all of us, I think, to come up with questions
Yeah.
that we feel are important, because all of us might have different questions. So I think it's a good idea. I also think that Fred asked last time if we could look at those resumes of those 5 candidates. And so I think it's a good idea for us to look at those first.
Yes.
Because we could circle things that we have concerns if someone isn't living in the county. I think it's important to have someone who lives in the county and
Do we-
knows about our airport.
Now, did we get an answer if we get to look at the resumes or not? Or we just make that request and
Right, I think we make a request to look at them, and then if in 2 weeks, when the interview process comes up, that might make us more aware of who we think is the best
Do
candidate.
you guys have the copy of all the resumes of the 5 candidates?
We don't know, not at the airport, we don't. I believe the
Human
city manager,
resources?
yes, HR has, them, yes.
I think. Right, Fred asked for it last time, didn't you, Fred?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you,
I think last meeting you asked for copies of the resumes of the final candidates, so we could review them for the airport director.
well, that would be great. I don't know if we can get those, but yeah, that'd be great.
Item D is in David, runway maintenance status.
So maintenance status, just continuing to do what I can with the crew that I have. So it's,
Me, myself, and I.
you got it. So crack sealing, trying to get the paint ready to go when we get a crew that we can paint with. There's just so much to do. I mean, the lights, I've rebuilt so many lights in the last 2-3 weeks now, taxiway and runway lights included. So I rebuilt the old ones to install and basically make them new with what I have. We can purchase new ones, but they're really expensive. And if we have the parts there, in my time, just when I get free time, when it was raining, start rebuilding lights. So we have lights there and I could just plug and play them after that.
Adam, that's called job security.
I'm just staying busy. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item E, removal of old buildings.
So now we're just waiting on the electrical quotes. I've called 6 companies to come and give quotes and estimates on that job to remove that panel, to move the panel that's currently supplying the RV that's
So-
attached to the building being moved.
Are you gonna take it out of a box or an upper?
So the meter that they used to use, I met with PG&E, the meter is in the fenced area next to building 14 on the opposite side of the building 14 as the RV. So they said we can go ahead and put it to that meter, run it underground and pop it up at the RV, yes. So so we're getting once all those quotes come in, we'll send it in. Whatever pops through there, we'll get that.
So how many quotes are you getting?
So minimum's 3. I started calling 4 companies. It was difficult to get everybody out there to get you a quote to return. So I've called 6 companies now. I will get the 3. It should be coming up within a week or so.
I've talked
What
to one.
companies have you contacted, just out of curiosity?
It kind of goes, I change it as we go
Yeah.
to give everybody a fair opportunity. So it goes through, I think this time was Noriega Company. We have
Randazzo.
Randazzo. I don't think he was on this one. I think they were on the last one.
All
So we kind of
local.
just,
All
yeah,
local.
almost everybody's local. I put Hollister Electricians. Not Jackaloni. I haven't called them on
Okay.
this job anyways, but mostly local. I think they're all local in this case. It's just been hard to get everybody out and then return the quote back to us. So
Do we have any idea approximate cost of that? Or,
I depends on what the quotes come
Okay.
back as. Yeah.
all right,
Depends.
If you have any problems, I know some more offsite electrical contractors. The guys do underground stuff like that.
Yes.
And work with PG&E, start, if you need any names of companies, I could get them too.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I estimate.
I'm behind the times.
Yeah.
I'm behind the times on this. Who's paying for this? Do we have a grant for this or? Because that asbestos removal could cost a fortune for those buildings.
So right now, currently, we're just waiting the electrical. The
Well, if you want to
electrical
know
removal,
who's paying for it.
Is there a
for the-
grant for this?
the building removal or the
Yes,
electrical?
building removal.
The city, from my understanding.
There's no grants for stuff like that.
That's what Brett would give us an answer, city manager. If we can get Brett Miller, maybe I can give him to get us an answer on that.
It's about $1 million.
right. And it would
Right.
be good to know, I mean, there are EPA grants out there that actually will cover the cost, give you a grant to cover the cost of removing them, plus help you rebuild so that you can, add to the infrastructure of the.
Do we know if anybody's actually pursued that,
Pursue
looking
the-
for grants?
I'm not sure, no.
Now, it may
Um,
be there's a conflict if we already have big FAA grants, we may not get a grant from the EPA, but I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be trying. It's a lot of money and there's a lot of money out there for that. And it's a perfect opportunity.
And more coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. So maybe next to removable buildings, add a grants update or,
I think we need to know, has anybody made that application? Anybody's made that inquiry if there is a grant out there? Are we just gonna assume that there isn't when we think there probably is?
Okay.
You know, I don't want to.
and the EPA grants are ongoing. It's not something that has a deadline. So
Well, I'm behind the times on this. Who requested this? Who put this in motion to take these buildings down? Was it the city manager?
I'm not even sure in that one.
Well,
They
it's
might
been a
have been
little,
condemned, Fred.
they've been condemned for years, but
Yeah, I mean, it might have been time to take them down.
Fred, if this was on your property, you would have it, city would come in and torn it down and sent you the bill. Okay, there's no excuse for those buildings still being there. They're a hazard.
Well, I agree.
Yeah, but I'm saying this, Mike had talked about it for years and he said, he was talking about 2 million. I went out, physically measured every building, came back with a number of about 1 million based on what demolition guys were telling me, So I don't think anybody ever really made, until now, I don't think anybody really was making any effort to do anything.
But I don't, we don't have that money in the budget, do we?
I don't think we have to.
Well, who's gonna pay for it?
We think there's grants out there for it. That's what we need to make sure somebody's
Right.
looking. Somebody
so
has to be looking for those grants. They don't just fall on you as you walk by. You gotta look for them.
I think we just need an update from the city manager to tell us how that's being funded. And if it's coming from, I would think the city council would want to know that there's funding out there instead of taking it from the city budget if it's not coming from the airport fund, general fund. So I think we need to understand it and say, we don't think it should be funded that way.
Well,
And-
is there anybody that wants to build on that site?
Well, there could be lots of opportunities there.
Well, I was just saying if, a lot of times you get the developer, if a developer wants to come in and build something on that site, the demolition process falls on him and the cost.
Sure.
Right.
So it'd be nice if you could be able to do that, but if you don't have anybody lined up for it, then somebody else got to bear the cost, and that'd probably be either getting a grant and or the airport budget somehow, or
Yeah.
city budget.
Well, they're all Navy buildings, so maybe the Navy would have to fund some of the cost.
Well, you know who would know is Brett.
Right.
Somebody's got to know if the Navy's still on the hook for that, Fred.
I think their dollar giveaway covered it.
Yeah, I know when they took down that building on the other side, there was a bomb shelter on the west side. And Mike got a grant from somebody through the Navy, I believe, to take the cost of that.
Just, okay.
So,
So we just need an update. We want to understand what the cost is, if they've already got an estimate for the removal of the buildings. Who's funding it? What the time frame is. If they send out RFPs to remove them, just the whole process, so we can understand it.
Okay.
And if they've sought grant funding, I mean, I provided the city numerous times in the last 6 months with EPA funding opportunities to remove Brownsville, the Brownsville grants is what it's called, to remove contaminated buildings.
Sure.
And so I haven't heard anything.
One way we might be able to kind of force an issue would be to put it on the city council agenda and go in there and have it as a discussion.
bring it up to 'em.
Make add an agendized item.
So I think it's a good idea. Once we hear from Brett,
Okay.
then if we're not satisfied with how it's moving, then we should make a motion to put an item on the agenda. That would probably have to go through Brett to get something on the council. So we probably should first hear from him, understand the whole process. Maybe they have applied for grants. Maybe they've been turned down, or maybe it doesn't fit in the criteria for the grant. So I think first we have to give him the opportunity to come back and explain to us.
What's
Agreed.
going on.
Item F, hangar waiting list policy. Did everybody receive the hangar waiting list policy document that was attached to the agenda? And the
Yes.
meeting minutes from the September 25th, 2019 meeting that reviewed I think it's
Has anybody actually seen the waiting list?
I think what we were trying to understand is if we could make a change to it.
Oh, I
So-
understand that portion.
Right.
I'm just curious how long the list is right now.
How many on it?
I think there was only,
6?
yeah, it was,
I was on it and I have to get back on it again.
Well, there's 6 lists though, right?
Yeah, but
Six
that's- you're talking
different-
about
Separate lists. yeah.
T hangers.
There's 6 different lists,
Yes.
but how many on each list? I
Yeah,
mean, is there
there's-
quite a few on each list?
I
Does
think it's
anybody know?
posted in the office, so
and it is posted
can
in
check.
that little thing outside. by
Jet
the
Center as well.
Center.
Yes.
Is
Jet
it
Center.
actually in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, it is.
I think the regular T hanger list was like 6 or 7 people, if I remember right. I haven't looked at it in a while. That's last I saw of it.
I think what
That list is gonna get
Mark had
very long, very quickly, as soon as they close Hillview.
correct. Well, that's why I'm thinking if we got rid of those contaminated buildings, there might be a way to move some of the businesses that are there. You know,
That's poppycock and forward thinking and
Right.
logical. What do
We
you
don't want to
think?
do that.
I would also like to find out Well, we'll add it to another, a new item
Yeah.
on the agenda to talk about next time.
The-
Let's
the-
finish the hanger waiting list.
Yes.
And then we can get through. Do you want to bring up your question? Mark?
Yeah, no, the hanger waiting list, the primary thing I was looking at is when, if you're on the list, you come to the top, they call you, you're not ready for it, you automatically drop to the bottom. And that's just a policy that I'm assuming it was Mike thought was the way he'd like to have it done. But I don't see any reason why that has to be that way. I don't see why if enough people, the airport commission, even tenants in general would like to see a change in that. I don't see, I mean, this is not stone, this is paper. And I don't see why things on here are not changeable. I think it's reasonable for someone just to drop down on the list. Next guy moves up. You don't take it. Next guy, you drop down again. Next guy goes up versus dropping to the bottom. That's a proposal I'd like to make. And I don't know who is in a better position other than the Airport Advisory Commission to make these kind of changes.
I agree.
I just got to get in there and use their computer some night when they're not around, and we'll fix that.
Adam, just leave the door open and the computer on with the file open. It'll be fine. We swear.
According to the minutes of when these were last updated, it was September 2019. At the time it was revised. Mike Chambliss noted that it had not been reviewed for 9 or 10 years since that. So I think it's good to look at these every few years instead of waiting 9 or 10 years. And I think, in my opinion, it is fair to leave the person who was turned down, not to make them go to the
Don't use the
bottom.
word fair.
Not fair. Okay. Cut the word fair.
Life's not fair.
Life's not fair. Do you want to make a motion?
I like the motion that we review the current procedure of how the waiting list operates.
Or do you want to say you make a motion to amend it?
I'd be happy to start there. Yes, we can do that. I'd like to make a motion. We amend the current procedure for the waiting list where if you're called, you drop to the bottom list. With this idea is you just drop down the list one, next person comes up.
I'll second. Oh, you second, sir.
Are you putting
All in
that on
favor?
are you putting that on the agenda for next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
We're making a motion to amend the hangar waiting list. So that,
Okay,
Yeah,
I agree.
so all in favor?
I
Moved.
Now, in that same note, what we might do is see what other airports do. Contact Watsonville or what their policy is on moving down one notch. I think that's fair.
They don't have any hangars available.
the only reason I kind of object to that is just an example. I talked to the manager at the Salinas Airport, and Mike was, I mean, he was bowing at the altar of Mike, and everything Mike does, he was happy with. And the biggest thing he was happy is with how Mike had been able to raise the airport hangar rents. And looking at this thing on here where Mike says Salinas' average rent is like 400 something. I know that's not true because I have a hangar over there that's better than the hangar I have here, and it's $220 a month. And I don't pay an annual fee at the end of the month. So it doesn't hurt for us to go through the entire policy there and see if there's other things we want to change. But I think if we start, I don't know if we necessarily need to go to other airports and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Because it doesn't seem to do us any good when we go there and ask for rent comparisons, because the one that Mike came back was absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you. Yeah, we're just prolonging the process going to other airports.
Yeah.
Now, we do have to be careful, and I don't know what the rules are, but I believe because we are tenants, that sometimes we can't vote on certain things. So we make this Right. Now, it may be we can make a resolution on the hangar waiting list, but because we don't have someone here telling us that we can't do that because we're tenants, it may have to come
Well, it
back.
was, the idea was that we have something to gain from that. So
I'm not a tenant anymore.
Don't you mess it, Fred?
But I have a drone I fly.
All right. Good for you. All right. Do we have any old business?
were we going to add through the fence on this current reports? Or is that not going to happen?
We should, because it was supposed to be on the list.
Through the fence agreements?
Right. Do we need to put that under old business? Or just,
We resolved that last meeting by indicating the cost of any taxiway through the fence is to be borne by the person or the company that's coming through the fence.
right, but I
Yes.
think we just wanted an update on if the first initial through the fence tenant had,
Oh, has moved in.
and if everything's approved now with,
Oh,
because there's a permit between the city, the tenant, and the airport for the first one, and the FAA had to approve it. So it's sort of like, we just really need an update on whether everything has been resolved. And maybe, I think it would be a good idea for the commission to see that permit. So I make a motion that the Airport Advisory Commission be able to review the permit between the city, the tenant, and the airport for through the fence
That
permit.
might be another city attorney action item, not us.
It might be.
It'd just a question to Brett, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's just a question instead of a motion, because I'm not sure that the airport has anything to do with it.
Yeah, probably.
Right. So maybe just take that off the,
A question I had about that, you
maybe
guys,
just an update.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
question I had about the through the fence, it wasn't clear to me. Would they like parallel on their property line and then pop through the fence, or would they be? Would there be a taxiway on city property paid for by these guys? I wasn't clear where that taxiway would be.
From what I understand, it's wherever at the fence, in order for them to get from the fence to a taxiway or runway or whatever, they have to bear the cost of a taxiway approved by the airport,
FAA.
FAA guidelines to be installed.
Yeah, but would they parallel stay on their side of the property and then punch through? Or would they be on the,
Well, they've got property lines, so they can't parallel very far, if you know what I mean. The existing lots out there.
Yeah.
Maybe 100 feet, wide. Or over here, I'm sure that taxiway is gonna be minimum, 30 feet?
yeah, but I think there's a lot of back space than
Oh, behind it?
behind the whatever buildings in front, they're not gonna be
Yeah, I
using it.
think that they're gonna have to, I think that's something for the city to. They have to, have fenced off area. It's gotta, I don't know if airport regulations are gonna bleed over into that,
The permit outlines all of that all the costs are,
everything, right?
yes. And
It is.
if you look, there already is one over by Margaret,
Yes,
and you can see where the fence line is there.
Yeah.
It's just not,
because it's gonna be a big deal to them, because once they're on the city property, they're pure FAA standards, and it's gonna be a big deal. versus if they were able to stay on their own side of the property and then come through, it'd be easier, I would think, but
And whoever they have at their facility, they are responsible for while they're at the airport.
Yeah.
It's the tenant and the owner's responsibility, and it's all in that.
so they
agreement.
just, their taxiway would be that road that's out there right now. Okay.
New business, item 8.
I want to hear about Paul's letter. How you doing over there, Paul? Okay,
Any
I
new
just
business?
think that we should take care of all the old business and kind of clear some of these things up before we start putting too much more on. Otherwise.
Do you have your mic on, Eric? I can't hear you.
Hi, Fred. I just said we should clear up a bunch of the old business before we started adding a whole bunch of new business on the agenda there.
I agree.
So it looks like Adam's going to be really busy this week.
Like I'm not busy.
Hey,
All right.
man, comes
Uh,
with the territory.
Items for next agenda. I think it's definitely
All the
all items 6A through F plus through the fence.
Through the fence.
So add a G. Through the fence access.
And then
Or-
an action item for the Cal Fire lease update being the who's responsible for the cleanup.
That's the city attorney, right?
City attorney or Brett or whoever knows who's responsible, what the deal was. I mean, this could have been part of the original lease that was cut, I don't know, 50 years ago. I mean, how, Fred, you've been here for a long time, right?
That lease has got to be around somewhere. And the
Well, I'm
city
just saying,
attorney has to
how-
pick it up.
Cal Fire's been at that location since what, the mid 70s, early 70s?
Yes, or before that.
And I remember
60s?
in the 60s.
Yeah, so, yeah, there's gotta, I bet you it's just there's gonna be some 5-legged dogs running around that dog park soon.
I have copies of all the leases. And I can forward them to all of you if you want to take the time to read through it. Some of them are pretty thick.
Yeah.
I'm seeing regardless of the lease, nowhere in there says you get to pollute and leave it,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
so,
and being part of a state.
yeah.
I
They're
mean-
held to a higher standard.
Our, our job is to care about the airport and what happens to it. So,
Right, right.
You know, we're bringing it to the city council attention or the city manager. And if nothing happens, then we go to the city council. We,
Yeah.
you know, that's who we're supposed to report to. So
I think that's the right way to go. So
Right.
currently we have we're gonna talk to Brett. You're gonna draft the letter? for
I'll
that?
draft a letter, but do I want it to run by you guys first or just ship it off?
You should run it by at least one person.
Got it.
Renee.
yeah, I'm happy to look at it.
Okay.
I don't mind. I don't mind. I'm not sure what the policy is for looking at documents when we're not, we haven't all seen it. But, you know, the Browns Act or whatever it is, look,
You
without
could do
assault.
2, you can't do the 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Robert's rules.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to review it and then,
Okay.
all right. Next meeting date is March 23rd, 2022 at 6 PM. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Well, I had one item on, I thought it was on
Action?
wow. It's kind of one of my petty things, but we're gonna try to find out if Cal Fire is paying anything for that helicopter site
My understanding is, yes, they are.
They are.
Yeah, I'm not sure the amount, but they are.
Do you know what? You know how much?
No, that's what I said. I don't know the amount exactly, but I
Okay.
know they are paying for it. Yes.
Can we find that out?
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn this fun-filled meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Thank you.
aye,
Here, Brad.
Bye, Fred.
aye. I'll try and make it in person one of these days.
Come out to the airport.